Okay, so we're going to test this out and see if this will work for a stitch with me setup. We are working on Hazel's World, a Heaven and Earth design. It was, this part of the pattern was actually a freebie given out a while back, and I have been working on stitching on it. As you can tell, I got some part threads, I got some threads that are about to be covered on the back so I can trim them once I get done, because that's how I do this. Just keep checking periodically, make sure I'm in screen here. Sorry if I can get off, and messing with my setup a little bit, because I want to make sure you can see what I'm doing if you want to see. Maybe you don't want to see. Maybe you'd rather listen to music than me sit here and rant and babble on and on and on. Last time I did a Stitch With Me, I mentioned having a recipe that I use in my Instapot for potato soup, and I am going to include that in the description box. I'm going to type it up for you below, so if you're interested in that, you can certainly take a gander. It's a recipe that I found online somewhere, and then I have tweaked it to my own taste, I guess. My husband's taste, and so now, you know, it is a family favorite, and it takes little to no time, and definitely an easy, quick Instapot throw together at the end of the day after work, so, and it gets done fairly quickly. So there's that. What else is going on? I'm starting to get ready for, that's right, 2022. I got my new Happy Planner the other day. I've been looking at my spreadsheets of things that I've used this year. How would I use them differently? What kind of stats am I looking at? How can I make mine not as thick as it was last year? I mean, I went to the extra wide rings on the Happy Planner, and it's hard to carry that around, and I do carry mine back and forth, and because I do life events as well, I started putting in there about halfway through the year. So I've been kind of kicking around the idea of having a separate planner for finishes, where I put my project tracker cards in when they're finished, and maybe doing a collage of finishes for the year with my little printer. But I don't know, just kind of thinking that through, some ideas I had. I watched Tranquil Stitches, and she had recently posted how she tracks her stitches and how she does her planning book. She has a book that she uses, and she marks in stitches and finishes, and what did she carry over to the previous, from previous years. And I gotta say, I started to write mine out, and it really, because I just started stitching in 2018. Sorry, I'm trying to remember, keep my hand out of your way. So 2018, really, I wasn't tracking much of anything. I know I started 2 whips. Shores of Hawkrun Hollow was one of those 2 that I have since finished. I am sure that there were others that were started at that point in time, but I wasn't tracking it. And then I've been going back through 2019. I've done a better job of tracking. And obviously in 2020, I just went gangbusters. So I kind of lost my place there for a minute. As far as tracking things into 2021, and every year it has grown. My carryover to the next year has grown. To when I started 2021, I had 60 some whips, and I have taken a good chunk out of that, which I'm proud of. But they've not been my bigger projects. My goal is to have Hazel here finished by the end of the year, so maybe I will have her be a Stitch With Me regular, just so that it motivates me, 1, to do the Stitch With Me's, and 2, to kind of get stuff finished. I have planning on doing the 12 Days of Christmas event that I came up with No New Starts, where December 13th, the end of the No New Starts 2021 happens, and that's 12 days before Christmas. So I have decided to do mystery envelopes. I've been kitting projects and putting them into envelopes and tucking them away, so that each day, kind of like an advent calendar, I can pull out an envelope and get a good start on that piece. And then I will be doing No New Starts 2022 when that happens, and I'm really excited about that No New Starts 2022 because I am opting to do the 22 in 22 challenge. So I'm trying to look at my whips differently as far as what really brings me joy versus what did I start and my brain says you started it, you should finish it. Have a hard time giving up on projects unless I really am miserable stitching them, and then I probably would give them up. But anyways, so I've been looking at, those 22 slots and what's going to be in my top 22 for next year, to get some big stitches on. So I've been dwindling those and which ones I definitely just cannot walk away from, even if I put them in timeout until the 2023 or until I finish something. But I also am excited to be able to focus my stitches on projects, because there's some projects I really enjoy stitching on, but I haven't been able to really put the focus in that I'd like. Let me see. I'm just going to double check and make sure that our video is actually videoing here in a minute. I'll double check that and make sure I'm not upside down, backwards, or what have you. And I'll be right back. I just want to get these two in here. If you hear snoring, it's because Max is laying here on the floor and he is snoring sound asleep. Okay, let's see, where am I at? Let me make sure I'm getting, sometimes I'll hop down and I don't follow, especially I'm getting so close. I think the bottom is like right down here, so I'm really getting close. Sometimes I'll hop down and catch a stray stitch if I'm close, if it's the only one there, just because it makes it better for me. I started out doing full coverage many different ways. This way works for me. I was pretty regimented in making sure I was following my 100 block, my square, and going by squares. But as I get nearer to a finish, I'm seeing, I'm pretty much doing colors at this point in time. So there is more traveling going on down here than what typically happens on my projects. So okay, I've been talking and talking. Let me just double check, make sure that we're filming okay. And let me get this in a good spot. Right there seems to be a good, well, you know what, let me just finish this thread and then I'll check it. Because the next one's going to be a different color, I think. This one goes here. So Samantha's at college right now, and this was her first week of college and work, so she's tired. Not been doing a whole lot of stitching. Hoping that at some point this weekend I'll be able to kind of lock her down to do a August wrap-up video. But I don't know. She hasn't been doing a lot of stitching this month. She's been trying to balance work, life, and work, so I think we've all had our share of those days. I I know work-life balance seems to be very important. I shouldn't say seems to be, it is important. But, you know, when you start spending money on those college books, and she's been paying for it herself, it's incentive to pull some extra hours and get some extra work in, and, you know, hopefully she's doing what she needs to do. It sounds to me like she is. She spends a lot of time at the library when classes are done until she starts her shifts at school so she can get her shifts at work. So she doesn't waste gas coming home and then having to go back out, but also so she can get some studying in with some friends, which is kind of nice that she's making some adult friends, you know, outside of high school. And we're getting close to where I don't think we're going to get much more out of this thread. I'm just going to do this one more stitch right here. And then we're going to double check and make sure that my setup is working, because I'd like to try and get a good setup, but it's kind of hard to. Now how I finish is I just kind of pull this down and pull it out, so I know it's short. If it's short, I know it's just something that's sitting there waiting. And because I stitched over, if you're following me, make sure you're still seeing me. Yep. Okay, so as far as I stitched over here, these threads would have been used over in here, and I pull them across and kind of let them out here, so I fill in the spots beside them, and then I can go ahead and trim those away. Same thing with these two threads. If you see them, these little nubby threads down here, now that I've stitched this up, the likelihood is that they're covered. We're gonna know. So looks like I got, yeah, that one is not buried right there. So yeah, so I'll trim it. I feel fairly confident that these are covered. I think I have one of this one right here is not, but I haven't filled enough in above it so that I want to trim that yet. So just go in here and nip it without cutting my fabric. Sometimes that can be a risk, because I do try and get down as close as I can. And these scissors, I don't know if you see them, they are very sharp, very pointed, very nice. But it does make me a little nervous on some of these that I might trim too close. I think I'm good to trim some of these back. The other risk is if you get part threads mixed in with your short threads, like this is a part thread here. You can tell because it's so much longer than this one. I don't want to trim that by mistake. I have done it, and then I got to go back and figure out how to tie another one in there for like a, you know, get it in there. And I think we'll trim that one too a little bit. Okay. So there you go. So now I've trimmed, and see, this is a part thread, or not part thread, but this is waiting to be trimmed, but I won't trim that until I've stitched past it, and then I'll go back and trim it. And the reason why I know that is I've taken it off to the side of where that project line is, so I won't trim that until I fill this in. And I won't trim these other ones that are down here until I fill more of this block that's above it. So once I get that filled in with stitches, then I may trim that. I have this little section over here, same thing. I won't trim these until I fill more of this in, because more than likely I have pulled this from over here, so I need to make sure that these are filled in before I trim these out. So hopefully that makes sense to all of you. It's just how I do it. It's so I don't have to flip all the time. Actually, I think I learned this from Jessie Marie, from Jessie Marie Does Stuff. She has a great video. Once I watched her video, a lot of the parking and how to start and end my threads made a whole lot more sense. So it made a whole lot more sense. I kind of lost my train of thought, and I started doing it that way, and now I've kind of expounded my own way off of that. And every project is a little bit different. It's just however I feel like the stitches should be, that's kind of the way I go. I kind of look to see where am I headed, what makes sense in my brain, and that's the way I go. So this isn't really a how-to video, to be quite honest. It's just me sitting here flapping my jaws, wanting to visit with you guys. Hopefully you're stitching with me. Our wrap-up videos have been quite long, and I get a lot onto Zoom. There's a I used to be on Virtual Stitchers quite a bit, but I haven't been on Virtual Stitchers Zoom Room for quite a while, and I miss all the gals over there, so I do need to make a point of doing that. There's just so many Zoom rooms out there. Fun Day Stitchers is a fun one that I've been in periodically and met a lot of new stitchers that way, which is fun and exciting. So what you just saw me do, let me do this again. Sorry for saying so much. Hopefully I'm not angled weird. Okay, so what I did is I'm actually going to be putting stitches up here. So I'm thinking in my brain, if I'm putting stitches up here in this area, where can I start it away? Some people will do knots away. I don't do knots on mine. I just kind of start it someplace away from where I'm stitching, about a block, maybe two, and I leave a little tail. And I cover that tail, if you can see that tail, I cover that tail with my finger until I get my first stitch in. And that just helps to secure it so I don't over pull. And once I get my first stitch in as to where it's going, so I know, here's my stitch, I know that that thread is running this line. So I can't trim that thread that's under my finger until I filled in this area, because that will make sure that my bottom thread is covered and secured. It's a gamble, but I haven't had any threads not be secured before I trimmed them, if I was meaning to trim them. So I will pop in a picture of what this pattern will look like when it's done. And I have been using it as a zombie run piece. Right now I'm using it for other prompts and other challenges. And having fun with you guys. Okay, so let's see. Jessie Marie tends to go straight down her blocks, and I do that on some of them, but I don't know that, well, I'm kind of looking and debating as to how I want to go, but I do think I'm going to just follow this one down a little bit. I can start another one. There's more stitches over here, but I think I can start another one to go over in that direction. I'd like to fill more this direction. So I'm just making it up as I go along, winging it. This is supposed to be a fun hobby. You're supposed to have fun doing it. I have fun doing it. It relaxes me, for one. And right now I'm at 75% complete on this project. Boy, it seems like it should be a whole lot further than 75%. Been hot, humid, rainy at night, humid during the day. Sometimes I'll get to a certain area and I'll just decide that, okay, I need to park that. I don't want to go that way anymore. Like I've been kind of trying to fill this block. This is a good thread. I need to move that out of the way. Sometimes I just kind of go along with where the next threads are. pulling that one up. And I'm looking here's the next one is over in here. Just trying to do what makes sense in my brain. It does make the back a little messy, but nobody's looking at the back. I'm not looking at the back. If it's messy, oh well, I'm not looking at it, so. All right, let me see that one and that one and that one. Let me move this up a little bit to see where I'm headed and how far do I want to go. All right. Okay, I missed a stitch up here, so let me, sometimes, drawback is that sometimes you'll catch one of those little buggers in your loop, and I just take my little snag nab it and pull it back out so it stays out of the way. If you hear my husband talking, he's gaming in the room next door, so, and I think he's hard of hearing some days. Maybe they call that selective hearing. He has that issue too. No, I got that little bugger again. Get him out of there. All right. Because I've been working down this way, it's going to be more convenient for me to trim these because I know that these stitches are definitely securing these so they will be out of the way. If that helps, I don't know. I'm just kind of following my stitch lines here. And my husband has watched me stitch before, and he's like, how do you know where you're going? I'm like, I follow the pattern. Pattern Keeper has been a savior for me for sure, because it's so much easier to look up and get myself in relation to where I'm at, because I can see easily what's around me. And I just double check, especially if I'm flitting and flatting around. I just double check and make sure that I'm stitching it, that it is, like this stitch is two above these two gray squares down here. And I definitely mark my stitches as I go, just so it helps me to not get lost as to where I am in the pattern. Sometimes I do get lost. Sometimes the struggle's real, and sometimes I amaze myself at how I can stay on track. Plus, I'm in a lot of groups. Today we start a spell with Crystal Academy. We're having a spell sling event. My team didn't really want to participate, so I volunteered, more so I can kind of learn how it works. I'm okay with being in groups and people telling me what to do. I really am, because it's less I got to think about, and then I can just stitch and know that whatever I'm doing is going for a good cause. Let's see. Now I'm starting to get a little bit further down here where my comfort level may not be what it should be, but 1, 2, 3. I am feeling fairly confident on where I'm at. And let's face it, if I'm off on one stitch, it's not going to detract from this pattern in the very least, because there is so much going on here. That's the beauty of Heaven and Earth Designs, is that there's usually so much as that one stitch going to make a difference. Now, sometimes that one stitch can make a significant difference depending on where it's at. For instance, the little white stitch on her eye could definitely make a difference between looking like alien Hazel and like the glistening reflection in an eye. I don't know. It's a babble day. What can I tell you? It's a babble day. I don't even know what time I started. I'm hoping that this isn't upside down, because I never did stop it to find out. And if it is upside down, I'm sorry. I may post it anyway. Because are you really watching my stitches, or are you listening to me babble and keeping you company while you're stitching? There is a, let's see, this goes here. And I think I'm going to park this one at this point. I'm getting too far away from my comfort level, so plus I don't want to use threads that could be used to anchor something else that gets stitched down in this area, so I am going to finish this one block here, and then I'm going to park this thread. And I tend to park, the key to parking is always park in the same corner of your cross. So I always park in the left lower corner. That way I always know where that stitch is going, because it's going to go right there. That's the biggest advice I can give anybody that is thinking about parking. Always park it in the same place. Actually, you know what? I found another stitch, so I'm going to go ahead and do this stitch, because I found one that's down here by herself. 1, 2, 3. That would be that one. Okay. So, all right. Now, I've done enough stitches to take a picture. I think we can trim these here. I'm going to trim some of these again. I'm trimming these short ones, and if I don't park, if I'm just pulling the thread because I'm getting to the end of my thread, or there's no more stitches in that area and I'm pulling my threads, I'm going to let them, I'm going to trim them down so that they're short, so I don't confuse myself and think I have a parked thread. Okay, so let's see if I did this okay, and then we'll attach a second view if I did it all right. Okay, we're going to try this again. Sorry, I got interrupted. I just did my setup a little bit. I know this is kind of a work in progress here to figure out the right setup for this. And I'm really not even, I don't think there yet, because where I'm comfortable stitching is over here, and you can't see what I'm stitching when I do that. So, we're going to try. I tried to zoom in, and it's not letting me zoom in even, so I don't know. We'll make this brief. So, since I've adjusted, I got a phone call from my daughter. As you know, she is in the National Guard and currently deployed. Anyways, so while I was talking with her, I was continuing my stitches, so you'll see that this area is filled in, and I've started to come across this area as well, and I'm working on getting these filled in. I also posted my start picture because Spell Sling started for Crystal Academy, and I am part of the Green Fanators group right now as a fill-in. To help them out. My team is the Green Scarabs. We just decided we're fairly new to Crystal Academy and really didn't know how it all worked, so we decided to sit it out. As the team captain, I decided to try and volunteer for a spot with another group that maybe needed players, so that I could, learn a little bit more about how it works. So basically we're doing 5 spells. We don't know what those points are for each spell, and so we're randomly picking spells to cast, and then at the end of the event they will tally up what spells, and then we'll know who won, and goes on to the next one. They're kind of doing it like the March Madness brackets. So kind of lost where I was. Sometimes when you pull in the thread, it'll point you can see which one's wiggling, to tell you which one needed its other leg. Anyway, once they do that, it's over the next couple of weekends. So I thought, why not? I'm going to put some stitches in. I've mastered 5 spells, so that's only 200 stitches a piece if I throw those ones out there. And if I opt to do some that I haven't mastered, it could be up to 450 stitches in order to use that spell. So, and we don't know what the points are, so, you know, how do we go about, do we go by what we know? Do we go by what we could know because it's more stitches? Do you think it'll be more points? All kinds of things like you have to think about. I don't know. But the main thing is stitches are getting done, and like I said before, is I do a lot of groups mainly because I've tried to just do the stitch what I want method, and I've realized that the groups really do motivate me to do a lot more stitches with when I have a group challenge that I'm trying to meet, or if there's people that I don't want to let down, so I'm doing extra stitches for them. So yeah, anyway, that's that in a nutshell. Anyway, it was good hearing from my daughter. I'm glad that she's doing okay. Samantha's away at college right now. She should be coming home sometime after lunch. And my husband went down to make us lunch. He just poked his head in to see if I was still doing whatever that stuff is that I do, which was trying to video this stitch with me. And I know this is kind of choppy and it's going to be all over the place, but I really am trying to find a really good setup that, one, my iPad isn't in my face that I can't see what I'm stitching on, and 2, you guys are okay with what you're seeing and maybe listening to me ramble on. I don't know. I'm going to get into some Zooms today and stitch with some friends. I get in fun day, like I said, periodically. There's also one that No New Starts tends to use on occasion, and there is a bunch of us that are in the No New Starts that are able to get into that group Zoom room, and we do go in there, and sometimes it is talking about challenges and trying to strategize with each other, because some of us are on the same teams together, so we like to do some strategy, and it's a lot easier in person than it is trying to do it over instant message, fairly in general anyway. But I thought, you know what, let me just finish this thread and then I will sign off from here, and I will post it however it comes out. I am not an editor, and right now Samantha just does not have time to be editing. I'm going to try and do like what they call a list, video list or group, and put all the stitch with me's under one area, because not everybody likes to stitch with me, but I think a lot of people do. So hopefully I can manage to at least get that much done today, so it's up and you can sit and stitch with me. Hopefully you're getting a lot of stitches in. Sometimes I struggle with what do I talk about, so you'll hear me kind of pausing and what do I say. What would you like to know? Is there something that you'd like me to show you? Is there something that you'd like Samantha and I to do on our update videos that you'd like to know more about? that's really, you know, would you rather have music playing? And maybe I will put some music in part of this. And just to see if I can figure out how to do that. So I'm going to start talking so that I can try that part out too. And hopefully you guys don't mind being tagged along while I try all these different things. To see how they work. They'll get better as I get more comfortable with what I'm doing and what people like. Hear that rattling? That would be Max. Apparently woke up from his nap and shaking and stretching. Getting his morning stretches in. Oh. I am a thread licker by chance, I guess, because I am not good at threading my needles. I do have a needle threader. I do use it too. So it just depends on everything else. All right, this is just about done with this thread, and let me get a couple more here, and then we can sign off. I need to get caught up on what's going on in the news too, just to see. My mind's at rest now, knowing that my daughter's okay, at least for now. Pray for our soldiers, pray for our country. Sounds like my husband's watching or listening to something downstairs. I can hear it. I'm telling you. Already hearing. I'm telling you. All right, everybody. Let's see if I can. I purposely did some things to try and splice things together. I'm going to see if I can edit this. Hopefully I can do it relatively simply. And get it up, and sometimes you'll see how it's kind of twisting. Sometimes my threads will twist, and I'll just let them dangle on the back. And I think that is probably, let's see, as far as I'm going to get, because now the dogs are barking. So there is that, and they weren't going to stop anytime soon. So I am just going to call that for today. And oh, sounds like Samantha just got home. We did 202 stitches, so that's a good chunk of stitches there. All right, everybody, I hope you have a great stitching day, and hopefully we'll do more of this soon. Take care. Bye.